Welcome to Shareholders of a Better World, brought to you by TBLI Group. At TBLI Group, we have an established reputation as an organization dedicated to building the ecosystem of global sustainability and impact investing. We're doing this through educating, advising, and facilitating transactions in global sustainability and impact business, as well as capital solutions for private companies, family offices, and fund groups. For nearly 25 years, TBLI Group has created a vertically integrated ecosystem of education to action through TBLI Conferences and TBLI Consulting. More about our company can be found at tbligroup.com. This webinar is brought to you by TBLI Foundation, which hosts educational learning experiences dedicated to a better planet. Through the foundation, we build sustainable communities by sharing the people and the experiences making a difference to so many of our lives around the world. Our weekly podcasts bring impact thought leaders that are doing and not only chatting. Now let me introduce my guest today.
Good afternoon from our studio in Amsterdam. We are really honored today. We have a brilliant thought leader and doer, Claudia Segre. Before I formally introduce her, I want to greet all of our listeners. So if you have never joined one of our weekly talks, if you have a comment, just type it in the lower right-hand corner of the chat area. If you need to send a private message or want to network with anyone, just move your mouse over the person's name and a window will pop up and you can either follow them or send them a private message. So today we have a really brilliant woman, Claudia Segre, who is been working for the last few years in addressing financial literacy and a wonderful term that she coined called economic violence, which has now been added to Wikipedia. And she's a dear friend and a woman that is moving actual money to improve the lives of women that have either no possibility for advancement, for not their own bank account, and working very difficult situations. So I am thrilled that she's found the time to do this because I know how busy she is. So I'm just going to let Claudia, for those of you who don't know who she is, introduce herself, and I will be quiet and listen.
Okay, so thank you so much, Robert, and hello to everybody. And let me just introduce a few words on who you are and what I'm doing. Actually, I'm an activist on womenomics, as I was always involved in association as a volunteer, carrying out activities related to education and training on financial education. And so following my professional commitment, I work in the financial system for more than 30 years on emerging markets, and I co-founded Action Forex, that is the National Association of Market Dealers in Italy, and becoming the first vice president, unique women vice president in the history of Action Forex till now. And so from 1993, I was working with this association for training, but the best experience was when I became chairman of the board of education for ACI Forex International in order to introduce young generation to the trading rooms and prepare the educational program for them on financial education. And actually what I'm doing and my activity is related to my foundation that I started 5 years ago in 2016. That's now we are working in Italy, in France, and with the sister company Global Thinking Foundation USA, also in the United States. And we are working planning long-term philanthropic project and strategy in order to develop many activities that are essential to ensuring the efficacy and the sustainability of our long-term program, and also to guarantee the presence of deep professional human value in our mission, that is spreading financial literacy and to prevent economic abuse, particularly against women and in general towards the sustainability of families, particularly now that we are facing a pandemic. And as you can imagine, we were affected by the social and economic disruption. And that's one of the main problems related to the results that we want to obtain by our project. And we are so linked all the project to the SDGs of the Agenda 2030 of the United Nations. And as well, we organize and sponsor projects in Italy, France, and US with institutions and also with private stakeholders, more than 200 only in Italy.
When you say economic abuse and economic violence, are you talking about physical violence against women? Can you explain what you mean by economic abuse and economic violence?
Yeah, no, we are not talking about physical violence. That's the tricky situation, because as we are doing education, information, and also assistance using our digital opportunity to meet people now, because physical is impossible, because we have two headquarters, one in Milan, then France, US, and into the south in Palermo. But for us, economic violence means a violence particularly against women that is related to the fact that they lose their economic rights and the way to leading and also to see recognize their right to be independent in some decision, to manage their money, to access the job market, and also is a problem of dignity, and not only to have an independence, but the freedom to make a choice when you know and you have skills, and also when you can decide on yourself, and not when you are deprived by this freedom, as was mentioned by the Istanbul Convention in 2011. You know, the Istanbul Convention that Turkey now decided to refuse when was approved many years ago by many countries, and was related exactly to the economic violence included in all other types of violence.
So, as far as I understand, you started working exclusively in the southern part of Italy, but maybe I'm incorrect and you worked in other places. So what were the greatest challenges in trying to teach financial literacy to women who the husband or their partner, they controlled everything? Women didn't have much to say. They didn't even have a bank account. So how do you come into a place like that, and you're not from the South, and you're going to try to teach financial literacy when maybe there's a lot of pushback from the local community?
In the last 2.5 years, we met more than 3,000 people, because the courses are organized in small classes of not more than 30 women. And the main project linked to adults is Women Squared. Is a project of financial literacy and social inclusion and in design for women. And there is a task force of 56 volunteers from all over Italy who provide their knowledge and skills. They have more than 15 years of career in finance. And so they are bringing the world of finance to help other women to learn how to manage their money, how to be aware of this decision, and not delegating to the other people, because there is a problem of culture, particularly in Italy. That's why we are focusing so many activities in the South, because we have to take in account that the problem in Italy, we are on the lower level of ranking into the peace assessment for the young generation, but also for adults. So under the OECD ranking, Italy is on the low level of knowledge and level of skills in financial literacy. So the way how the women, they are assuming their personal role and consciousness to be protagonists of their respective life, privately and professionally, choices also is very important, because the problem is not only to promote gender equality and empowerment of women and girls in order to have an active role into the society, but also to promote an economic and financial way to participate to the society and to sustain the development of the country. Unfortunately, in Italy, 20% of the women women workers, they don't have a personal account. Into the South, we arrive to 40% of women. So that's a real big problem, because if you think that in Africa we have a platform, M-Pesa, and there are so many millions of people linked to M-Pesa, and many women doing small and medium, business that obtain microcredit and using this platform to obtain money and try to be independent. In Italy, we are so many women that don't have their personal account. They are not able to, and they are exposed and they have to combat because they are victim of economic abuse, and they are not aware of the real steps to be independent. And that's the problem also related to the employment, because in Italy, only 48% of women are employed. So that's another big problem.
But how does Italy's unemployment or underemployment compare to Belgium, France, Germany, or the European average? Is it at the same level? Is it lower?
Under the Treaty of Lisbon, it was mentioned that the focus for 2010 was 60%. Now the European medium average for women is 67%. In Italy, 48%. So it's a very huge difference. And this brings also the fact that if you're not involved into a open or freely choice to be employed, because you have always to manage between your private life and manage the family and a free decision regarding your job, obviously you are not trained, you have not the opportunity to meet other people and to grow also in terms of skills. Both hard and soft skills. So that's the main problem why people are so far from the medium average also in financial literacy skills and in digital skills.
But I would think that if women are underemployed or unemployed, wouldn't you have to also do the training that you do? Shouldn't it also be focused a bit on the men that are carrying out the economic abuse rather than the women who are being abused?
No, obviously, the courses are open to all the citizens, so both men and women. But the different attitude coming also from the cultural heritage is that men are more aware to know or to have skills in terms of financial and economic skills. For the women, it's a little bit different. That's why in 2018, we issued the first platform for financial education for families, Family Me, and using also an algorithm. So there is 25 videos with the subtitle in English, in French, so it's open also to migrants, so people that are not so, confident with Italy. There is also the Italian language for people that have some problems in terms of hearing impaired people. And so they have the possibility to acquire all the basics of banking account, insurance, bond, financial products, ETF, investment funds, and whatever. So obviously, also the digital platform is really a useful way to connect it with people, not only the courses, and both men and women, obviously.
And when you I would imagine there's a big cultural difference working in Italy or in France or in the USA. But as far as I can see, most of the employees of your foundation are Italian and women. Do you find that there's a big cultural difference with dealing with the French? Because you told me that you were recently invited by the French government because of the success of your program in Italy. Maybe you could share a little bit with the audience of what happened actually.
Now, actually, we have 10 employees in Italy, 2 in France, and 6 in US. In US, we are very heterogeneous team in terms of genders, and in Italy there are mainly women. That's true, but the activity in France started 3 years ago, and we publish a practical guide against economic violence. And due to the fact of the results obtained with the project that I already mentioned, Women Squared, we received an invitation, and was really a surprise for us, from the French government to participate to the audition of the roundtable on the 25th of November last year, that was focused on economic violence, because you know that in after the Istanbul Convention included economic violence, then many countries like UK, for example, they changed the domestic abuse bill last January in order to include the damages coming from economic violence and economic control against women, and obviously the new generation on young adults. And at the same time, France was interested to the results of our project, so we bring the good news that we share with the OECD, as we are participating to the INFE, International Network for Financial Education at the OECD. We also submit the results of the cases that we faced on economic violence, more than 300 in 1 year, and also some suggestion how to change or improve the law in order to include economic violence, and some sanctions or some, results that will be useful for them in order to discuss. And was 2 hours of discussion very powerful for us, as you know, to participate to an audition at the French Parliament was a real an honor, and an improvement also for our program with other countries and into new European projects.
But I would think that wouldn't this be a more effective program if you did it pan-European? Because, okay, there might be some maybe in the Nordics it's a little bit better. There's maybe less economic abuse and maybe just more boredom compared to in other places. But are you doing anything with EU? Because the EU has put up a lot of money for these types of social inclusion. Have you spoken to any of the DGs responsible for engagement, labor?
Yes, for example, we produce some playlists of podcasts, one during the words of COVID, the other one on finance, sustainability and finance. And we are preparing a new podcast playlist focused on diversity, inclusion and economic violence. And there will be a video from Mario Nava, that is the director of DG Reform OU, because DG Reform is working particularly on the gender equality and such a kind of issues and matters regarding women empowerment and womenomics. And there is a very strong connection with them, and they are supporting us into, for example, this idea to spread using the podcast the way how to prevent economic violence. At the same time, we are in connection with our Ministry of Gender Parity and the French Ministry, and we are organizing a meeting for next November in order to exchange the experience, because you know in France we have more services for families than in Italy, but France is an example on certain side, and on the other side is inspiring also the Italian government to do more on the services for families and women due to the COVID also.
Do you have any statistics comparing, let's say, Asia, Southeast Asia, or China or Japan, which is also very difficult for women. Maybe they don't use the word economic abuse, but some other word. Do you have statistics comparing Europe, Asia, Africa, Middle East, Latin America, with respect to financial literacy, lack of economic abuse, more opportunity for women who are participating in the workforce? Is Europe okay, or is it bad? And is Asia doing a better job? I know it's a big area and hard to compare, but I'd like to hear some.
There are so many statistics, and for example, yesterday there was a very interesting workshop issued by OECD, by the INFE, and focused on the women approach and financial literacy into all the OECD countries. So it's plenty of these kind of statistics, but as you mentioned, there is a big difference between China and South Korea, because China included, for example, financial literacy from the very early ages, so from when babies are 8 years old, like in Netherlands. So financial education, computing, robotics are added to the school program as compulsory. In China, like in South Korea. A very different situation is obviously in Indonesia and in the other countries that are not these two. In Latin America, we see, for example, in Colombia, problems very similar to south of Italy. But always there are these two issues that are, from one side, the financial and economic skills and the digital skills. Both of them are clearly affecting the independence of women. But for sure, there are many statistics. And for example, yesterday I participated into an event that we organized with the University of Pisa, discussing the postdoc situation, economic postdoc situation, and so comparing US and UK with Europe instead of Italy or Netherlands. As you know, that in Netherlands, 50% of postdoc and researchers are coming from abroad, and many of them are Italian. Why? Because they are escaping from Italy because of the economic condition and financial condition for the research and development. They are not so helpful, particularly for women, because when you have to build a family and you have a 6-month contract that every 6 months you have to renew, there is no one bank that give you a current account or a credit card. So this is another main problem. So there is a sector that is the academic sector that is so peculiar during this pandemic that is affected by a precarious situation of the job contracts of the postdoc people from 28 to 35 years old.
Wouldn't it, I mean, you were saying, I didn't realize about the difficulty of getting a bank account, because at least in the Netherlands, you apply, you get a bank account. They don't, you're not borrowing money. But I didn't realize that you have to show that you're actually working somewhere to do that. Wouldn't it be an idea for you to partner with some of these new fintech companies to target specifically Italian women, offering them, simple application on their phone to get, a bank account and a credit card and an ATM card? Have you ever considered that?
Yes, in fact, you have to take into account that when I see that due to the pandemic, if you see also to the women in digital ranking in Europe, Italy is presenting the more evident gender gap in all 13 indicators regarding the participation of women into the digital economy, but also in terms of the fact that 1/3 of households in Italy didn't have a personal computer or tablet at home. And so that's another main problem. For this reason, at the end of 2019, we issued an app aware and independent, that will be also open in English from May. So now it's in Italian, there is also in English. And we create a FinTech Observatory for Sustainability that is concentrated on FinTech for good, so promote knowledge of the FinTech for sustainability. And we are, analyzing and collect our cases of good practices at national level, also at international level, in order to formulate some proposal or project related to the use of fintech solution for sustainability and for our purpose, or improving skills for women and to train them to have a current account, a credit card, or how to face sometimes the problem that they are with the connection with the banking system.
Sorry. I have to apologize to everyone, because when I first was introduced to you, someone, I forgot who, had told me the story of how you started the Global Thinking Initiative, that your previous husband, who passed away, you didn't know that he was a wealthy person and that he was hiding millions, and then all of a sudden it came out on the Panama Papers that he was on the list, and when the lawyer told you, okay, you're going to inherit all this money. And I only found out a couple of hours ago that story is not true. It's a nice story, but it's not particularly true. He was just, as we say in Brooklyn, he was a schnorrer, he was a cheapskate, and the minute that he passed away, you took the finances and committed them to the Global Thinking Initiative. Why did you do that? What was the driver for you to do that? I mean, you worked in the financial world, you worked with all these alpha males and alpha females. It would have been very comfortable and easy doing that once you're in that space. What was the driver to take this inheritance that you got and money that you earned yourself to do this?
But the fact was that with my first husband, we never had any babies, and for this reason, when he started to face this situation with a tremendous cancer in 6 months, he died, and we realized that and we shared the idea of a foundation focused on education for young generation. So we started with the traditional approach to sustain grants and all the possible initiatives to help people and particularly young generation with merits to participate to the university, like very important university, or to obtain the opportunity to study after the high school. So the fact was, first of all, a typical philanthropic approach, and then there was a situation in which we were asked from the Financial Commission of the Chamber of Deputies. There was the new law for financial education in discussion, and one of these, the president of this commission called me and say, okay, it's very interesting, this foundation focus on financial literacy. Could you please use the people and that you are financing for these studies in order to prepare a glossary for the school, because we want to test the different programs in order to see if this new law is well written or will be helpful and or effective for financial education spread. And so we prepared this glossary. We are now at the third edition of the glossary, and now there is also the glossary is available in a digital form with more than 3,500 exercise to do with quiz, and we distributed more than 125,000 copies for free, obviously, at the school that decided to introduce financial education into their program. So then we received the invitation from some institution like Bank of Italy and the Italian Institution for Insurance to prepare some courses for women, and then we prepare Women Squared and so on. So was trying from my experience into the financial markets, into emerging market, where I was always approaching social inclusion, financial inclusion matters, and my commitment to womenomics from more than 25 years, that I say, okay, now that's the great occasion to jump up and improve the project towards an international project. And that's why now we have such a long story of project, publications, and results, for sure.
Is just teaching financial literacy or giving access to a bank account in Naples or southern Italy or Puglia, is that enough? I mean, if there's no work, you've created, okay, you've done the education, they have a bank account, but they can't find work because they're a woman and the jobs are being given to the men. How do you address that challenge?
We learn from COVID-19 pandemic that there is another chance to approach the job market, that is not only startup but also to do to start your own company. And so one of the courses, there is the basic of finance, advanced finance, and then professional. There are two courses. One is for adults and the other one is for young women that after university or high school they want to acquire more skills, how to bring and how to prepare a business plan, a SWOT analysis, how to prepare a pitch for a new company. And due to the situation, so many small and medium enterprises led by women need to reinvent themselves. They need more skills, more digital skills to prepare to deliver the food because the restaurants are closed, for example. So all this training is very important for them, and we are working on upskilling and reskilling the young entrepreneurs and also the entrepreneurs that want to reinvent themselves.
It's not only about training about financial literacy or psychological empowerment. It's really helping them to become independent, and whether if they want to create their own business or they want to have a job, you're assisting on multiple levels. That's quite a large undertaking.
Yes, for sure. But as I mentioned, the success of our model is the fact that we have a huge task force of volunteers. The fact that we have 56 volunteers in Italy, we have 10 volunteers in France, and we are building also the task force in US, because in US we are is more targeted towards the debt loans of people that is moving from the university to the job market, so need to manage this high level of debt. That is something very specific for US. And so the fact that we have volunteers is very helpful to manage both the shelter situation and the courses.
And there are several initiatives, as I mentioned, from the EU for funding startups like the European Innovation Council. Have you looked at trying to access that funding for some of these women-led startups that you're assisting? If not, we're happy to help you connect with the right parties. There's 80 billion euro committed until 2027 to fund your.
Yeah, at the same time, I have to tell you that what we are expecting, what we are also stressing towards the government with the women association to which we are participating is to see a very important focus on women empowerment and services for families coming from the Next Generation Fund of EU. So that's another great opportunity for all countries, and particularly for our countries, to focus more on women and on employment participation of women more than what we have seen in the recent years.
You have a lot of things going against you. You have cultural issues, you have lack of understanding, you have people who don't want to share power because, hey, I've got the power, I've got the money, why should I share that with you? So it's sometimes hard rolling the stone up the hill as you're doing to get to the top. How do you handle situations like that where it seems, oh, brother, this seems nearly impossible, the job that I took on now?
When I see that, for example, into the South, students are in a position that 40% of households not having a computer, so the double of the North, and that population are also overcrowded homes, and this situation is including minors babies. So when you're seeing this situation, you take more energy to do and to bring more project into the territory where there is a huge need to face. And for example, now we are starting a new project on the situation regarding the trading online, speculative trading online, or gambling, because there is another problem, because during the COVID you have to face another threat, that is the fact that you are at home, and from due to this digital revolution, so many opportunities come at home by your mobile phone to gamble, and so this is another way of have an impact and the social disruption for families. So there are so many issues that we have to face, but we are very happy that we are doing and involving the municipalities, because the way we are working is that, first of all, we sign an agreement with the municipality, with the regional institution, the Chamber of Commerce, and all the territorial institution in order to be involved. Also the church, if you want, because all the churches from Protestants to Catholic are very important to obtain a results, to do a sort of security chain all around the families when they have to face an economic disruption.
And could you share some specific experiences, like what for you was the most successful project that you did, whether in statistics or emotional rewarding? And you've done a lot of projects over the years. Which one do you think stands out as the one that you're most proud of?
But for sure, the two projects that are related to women. First of all, Women's Square, because as I mentioned, it started...
What is Women's Square?
Women Squared is in Italian Donne al Quadrato, because it's designed by women and dedicated mainly to women by other women that are teaching to them. So women that are coming from financial experience say, okay, I was able to face such a kind of, difficult situation, because finance is not so open to women, particularly trading rooms, but they bring their experience, and there is this kind of interactive opportunity to exchange experience and put in practice what we are discussing during the courses, in terms of also personal and professional fulfillment that are fundamental for individual well-being and to improve your well-being. If you mention that we measure the results of Women's Square project with the University of Sacro Cuore in Milan, and with the method of measuring the well-being connected to the participant of the courses, and we measure with the typical social impact method, so before and 6 months after the courses, and there was an improvement of 8% in terms of welfare and well-being, because of the results was related to the improvement of the power to asking the right questions, to think before signing something, to use your way to plan in a long term your familiar budget, to have a positive return into this management, and also the way to avoid any situation of over-indebtedness, and to combat also some situation of non-substance addictions. So that was the main results, and was very important for us to achieve these results that are proved, and we bring these results, in fact, to the French government. The other project is Free to Live, Libere di Vivere. Is important because we use the graphic novels, and we use an exhibition in 3D that you can visit, because it's both in Italian, English, and French. And we use the design, we use the graphic novel, original graphic novel. Now we have 3. There will be also the 4th graphic novel. And we discuss about economic violence into the school, meeting the people, because there is a physical tour all around Italy. And the last step of this tour is in France. Obviously, there was a tour 2020. You have to think that during the second part of the year, we have more than 16,000 people participating from the digital point of view to the events. That was hybrid events, so physically and digitally offer, and was very important to have these institutional events, the visit to the exhibition, physical exhibition, and digital exhibition in 3D. So this is very brand new, and into the schools, I have to say, for the first time, I've seen in Italy really a strong interest coming from the teachers for economic violence, civil rights, Italian constitution to be discussed into the classroom with all the students.
Yes. Giotta had a question, was a statement before the Giotta Argawala. She was saying the pandemic has shown that if we are WFH, women bear the heavy burden of child elder care household. Isn't it the simpler thing to value work done at home? Homeschooling should be paid more than banking or law. The question is, are there opportunities to teach online in some of these programs in Italy?
Yeah, now all these programs are moving digitally. So all courses are digital, because we cannot enter into the schools, because it's forbidden for people that are not personnel of the schools to enter into the schools. So both the schools courses and the adults courses are all digital. Yeah.
And what can this audience that's listening to this now live, also the ones that will listen to the replay, what can they specifically do to help you? Because when you're listening to yourself, oh, Claudia has it all under control. She doesn't need any help. She has loads of energy. She's a nuclear power plant with energy never stopping. So what can we do to help you?
But for sure, we need some help in order to improve the contents because, for example, the graphic novel, now there are 3 graphic novels. We are planning to do more, but obviously in order to design the graphic novel and publish the graphic novel and put in animation the graphic novel, it's very expensive. So for sure, this is for an example of how we are collecting finance, and also on the other side, we want to improve the app, the services of the app. For example, we are improving an app for the young adults and improving the contents for the young generation, because we have some video with the Lego and some video regarding the both podcast and video regarding the 17 goals of the Agenda 2030. But all these projects are projects that we can improve if we receive some support. So the basic are very strong, that's true, but we can improve, and obviously we are open also to new ideas regarding also financial product related to the supporting of this initiative, and particularly to enlarge the spectrum of people involved into the South that can apply and participate to this project.
Okay. And most, just correct me if I'm wrong, most of the resources and the activity is focused in the southern part of Italy, or is it equally in France, Italy, and the US?
Actually, now we are in a situation of equilibrium between US and France in terms of commitment. We are starting also the courses into the school in France in May. We will restart because due to the COVID was closed, and the main efforts are concentrated into the South. That's for true. Because we are working in all the territory of Italy, but in some northern region like Veneto, like Lombardia, there are more economic finance coming from the region than into the South. So that's for the reason why we concentrate in our activity, and we have an headquarter also in Palermo, because it's from the South that we need to reduce a lot of our divide regarding skills and digital problems.
Has the Me Too movement, particularly in the United States, has it had any influence in getting more interest in this concept of economic violence or economic abuse?
From one side, I have to say yes. Actually, in Italy, there are so many associations and also partnership of association. For example, we participate into Inclusione Donna. Inclusione Donna is a sort of club representing more than 60 most important women association in Italy that bring their voices to the government in order to change things. So for sure, Me Too move the mountains and the people, but when you have this strong cultural heritage, very conservative, you need a lot of efforts and years to change things.
And how I'll send to everyone your contact details from the organization if they want to contribute or support or volunteer. But how do you find all of these interns that are volunteering for your organization? Are these all university interns that read about you, or that you actively reach out to them?
But the fact that we are a non-profit foundation, sometimes we obtain for free to have some advertising pages on newspaper, and also we produce a TV spot on economic violence, both in English and in Italian, that was spread into the most important TV channels. And so we received so many requests. But obviously, I started from people that I know, my friends, and women that were involved into the financial market with me, some in retirement. So we started with friends, and then we enlarged to the other people that were interested into our mission.
Do you think it makes a difference if a woman is running the country, like a woman prime minister in Italy or a woman CEO of a company? If you think that if that was the case, it would be less or more economic violence or aggression? Does it make a difference who's running, or is it more about the perception and the culture and the attitude?
No, for sure it makes the difference. As I mentioned at the beginning, I became the first vice president of the National Association of Market Dealers. But after me, there was not any one more vice president or general secretary women into this association, and no one president. So for sure, I think that brings this kind of position from the government to the board member, including more women. It will change things. But again, there is a strong change in cultural heritage that we did to perform.
And do you ever go on trips to like Iceland or New Zealand or to Finland, which has very high participation of women in leadership roles, sometimes written in law? Do you think that would help in Italy of having more kind of legal framework for you have to have so many women in the board? Or you think it's still about changing the minds of men and women through capacity building, what you're doing?
Thanks to a law that was issued 10 years ago, we jumped from 10% to 30% into the board, the participation of women into the board of companies that were listed at the stock exchange. And also the same in terms of political participation from the 12 to the 30%. So for sure, for Italy, some quotas helped, but now we have to move to the second step, working on merits. On the other way, I have to tell you a story because we participated to a sort of marathon for women's rights a few months ago, and there were many women from different countries, and I invited one friend of mine from Finland, and I say, okay, please tell me what about the use of next generation funds? What about women? And she answered, we don't have any problem about the gender equality, so our approach is neutral. And when I hear neutral, so it's unbelievable for us to think about that you can face a strategy for next generation fund in a neutral approach without mentioning that there is a huge gender equality problem in our country. So my dream is to move to neutral approach for political decision on laws and financing.
Okay. Arthur had a question for you. How do you see the development in Turkey, Spain, and Poland to allow marital violence again? Or, I mean, obviously, I guess you're not for it, but what was your reaction to that?
My reaction is that I think that from the side of Poland and Hungary that put so many obstacles also to the Istanbul Convention, if they are not aligned with the European values, you can just stay outside Europe and also not to use, please, the European structural funds. Regarding Turkey, I written so many articles on Erdogan, the government, and what happening during these years in Turkey. unfortunately, I'm not surprised of the last decision regarding to leave Istanbul Convention, but I think it's more related to put some pressure on you against, like was they did regarding migrants, in order to obtain a compromise on money, then also from the ideological point of view. But obviously, when you fire so many central bank governor, Houston, there is a problem.
Do you prefer I had this discussion with my wife often that I prefer working with women, she prefers working with men. Does it make a difference to you? Do you find it easier to work with women rather than men, or is it it doesn't matter to you?
I worked in a trading room for more than 25 years, and it was very difficult for me to have a team with women and men and the same participation and representation, because to have women into the trading room was not so easy. But for me, the participation of both gender in general of genders is a strong quality for me in order to improve the quality of my job, to exchange ideas, to receive suggestion, and obviously for me is a question of quality of my job. So to have both, it's very important, both or more, whatever. The other fact is that in our foundation we are more women. I don't know why, but it seems that no-profit activity attract more women than men. But in US, as I mentioned, there is an absolute balance.
Okay. We're coming toward the end of the hour, and I know I'm very sensitive to all of the other work. Everybody's waiting for you to finish this call to deal with other issues. But if there was one thing that you would like to fix in the next 2 or 3 years, what would be the most important thing that you would want changed? Whether it's
but for sure, what I think is that the planet is under female covered in terms of job position. Okay, instead of Kristalina Georgieva and the big position in multilateral institutions. But obviously, I think that we cannot leave 50% of the population behind, in particular women. So, and the other assumption is the sustainability is the future of investments and of our work. So I think both things, women and sustainability, will be the driver for the big change. And my dream is that women have the opportunity to have the freedom to have and to make choices for their own life without any constraint from the side, coming from the domestic environment or from the political environment.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going to take a group selfie with everyone. I hope that we're able to get back to Milan and hug each other again.
Absolutely.
Soon. So let me just take a quick group photo of everyone. So if everyone would just smile to the camera, and I'll distribute that. I'll also distribute the link to the replay of this seminar, so you can access it any time. And I'll also send you some further information about work that Claudia is doing, so that you can contact her. So just you make the photo, close it down, so I can send this off. And if maybe we'll try to do a short round of virtual happy hour, because I don't think too many people are using this selfie. So I'm going to end this. Claudia, thank you so much.
And to you, see you in Palermo very soon, or Naples, or whatever.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. I'm going to try this and see if anyone is still up for meeting someone else. We'll do 3, let's see. Okay, 3 rounds. Okay, 3 rounds. And we'll do this. Okay.